Namaste, everyone, and welcome to John Talks Indian Cinema. I am your host, the Indian Cine-MANIAC, back with another 10ish-minute review and a classic, I would have to say, as I discovered after I watched the film. And you know, I'm changing things up. I'm asking you, I'm begging you at the beginning to please share, like, hit subscribe, because a lot of you watch the show and then don't like it. So either you're watching it and not liking it, or something personal about me. I don't know, but do me that favor, would you? Not a big thing for you, big thing for me. I'm trying to get to 1,500, eventually 2,000. And I'm thrilled because we've got over 1,300 maniacs out there. It means a lot to me. Thank you. But we want to keep building the maniac community. We got to keep doing that. So the film I'm watching was recommended by a relatively new maniac at Gauta M. Chavda 3663. Gauta M. Chavda 3663. And the film he picked is 1964's Dosti, Friendship. It was directed by Satyen Bose, who directed Chalti Ka Naam Gaadi, which I reviewed on the other channel, kind of a Marx Brothers comedy. The cast is Sushil Kumar, Sushil Kumar, Sanjay Khan, and Leela Mishra, who was in Sholay. The other people, I don't think I've seen anything with them. And this is a Hindi classic, as I have discovered, and people absolutely love this film, and I can certainly understand why. Now, do I think it's a perfect film? No. But I have to say that I'm fascinated by some of the older Indian films. And I've seen a few of them. I haven't seen a ton of them, but I've seen a few of them. And this one kind of, there were things I really liked about it, and there were some things that, I'm like, okay, you try to look at it. It's hard to look at a film like that with my eyes today, looking at a film from the 60s, right? But you do have to do that. So in that regard, I appreciate what the message was about the film and how it was done. Okay? So I'll get to that in a second. All right. So the story is actually kind of a brutal story. I would say the ending is very upbeat, but the film itself is a pretty harsh reality of life for these two friends. I also would say that, and one thing I have always enjoyed about Indian films is they're never afraid to show men who really care about each other without it being sexual. Because there are scenes in this film that if you made this today, it would imply they're homosexual. And that's not what the film's about. The film is about a friendship. And that really is, it's about a deep, deep friendship between the two lead characters. One is blind, one is, I won't say lame because he's really not lame, but he's got a bad leg. And I appreciate it, because when I saw RRR, which is the first Indian film I ever saw, that really stood out for me. That these two guys, it was a bromance, and there was nothing, there was no implication other than they were just two guys that really loved each other. They were friends, and they were there for each other. That's what this film was like. So the story is about a young guy who's a great student, whose father dies. The company won't pay because they're not responsible for his death. The mother is very sickly. He gets kicked out of school because they can't pay the fees. She ends up falling downstairs. He runs out to get help. He gets hit by a car, runs over his leg. She dies. He's in the hospital recovering. Now he comes out. She's dead. He's got nowhere to live. So he's homeless. And he doesn't want to beg. And he saves a blind boy. So the main character's name was Mohan. He was the blind. No, excuse me. Ramnath or Ramu. That was Sushil Kumar. The blind boy was Mohan. So that's the beginning of their relationship, and they're helping each other through this. They're both homeless. They're both trying to figure out how they're going to eat, where they're going to stay, and through the course of the film, Ramu plays the harmonica, and it's actually, and I love the music in this. In fact, Gauda M. Chavda 3663 told me that the music is a big reason why you want to watch this film. And I have to tell you that the harmonica music, because I'm a big blues, I love the blues. And the harmonica music really reminded me of that. Really well done. And I didn't, I feel bad about this, but I didn't write down who the harmonica player was, but they definitely deserve to be called out for that. And then now through the course of the film, at one point, Mohan starts singing, and he's got this beautiful angelic voice. And through this, they're starting to get some money. They're not begging. People are giving him money. And his voice, the first time he sings, it's beautiful. And again, whoever did the voice, whoever did the singing for the lead character, the voice was incredible. It was incredible. So so that's how the movie goes along. Now there's a whole subplot with Mohan's sister is a nurse, but when Mohan was younger, she left to become a nurse, and he hasn't seen her since. Well, in a flashback, they show that his house got flooded. The father died, I guess, and he ended up homeless. Well, they end up in front of a house of a very wealthy brother and little sister. They call her the princess, who's kind of sickly, but she hears this music and is enthralled by it, and calls out from the balcony, and they start playing for her, and there's just this they just make this connection, and through the movie they don't get to see each other very much because the brother just thinks they're beggars. He doesn't think anything of them, and they're just trying to make this girl happy because she's sickly. And it ends up that Mohan's sister is the nurse for this little girl. So that's wholly convenient timing, Batman. Um, but again, it's a tough film because the way the boys are treated because they're handicapped, it's brutal. They're getting beat up. They're looked at very lower caste because of it, and that's throughout the film. And they're taken advantage of. Now, through certain circumstances, Mohan is able to afford Ramo going back to school, where he becomes a star pupil. Now, of course, he's got to get past all the kids who hate him because he's a cripple, and so there's that whole thing. And then at one point, he's going to go to jail, but the teacher, and again, this is what I mean about this being a tough film. The teacher says, "I'll get you out, but you have to leave where you are because that's bad place, bad people around you, and you got to live with me." Well, that means leaving Mohan, and that's a brutal, the separation, and he won't talk to him, and this goes on for a while. But what Ramu doesn't know is that Mohan paid for his school. He doesn't find that out till later on. And then again, this is some of the stuff that I wasn't crazy about. It gets very overly dramatic. The little girl, the princess, she dies, but on her deathbed, she's looking for Mohan and Ramu to hear the music again. Now the nurse has figured out that's her brother, but she doesn't want anything to do with him because he's a beggar. This is his sister, right? So Mohan, they've been separated for so long. Mohan, now he's sick and he's in the hospital. So there's a little overly dramatic for me. They're like soap opera, over the top. But even having said that, I'm thinking about myself in 1960s India, seeing a film like this, and with the music and the storyline, which by the way, they persevere in the end, and that's really what all the suffering they go through in the end, their perseverance pays off. And so it's a very uplifting ending. Now, does it take some overly dramatic things to get there? It does. But that's okay. That's okay. So I'm going to give the story a four. I really did enjoy it. Again, I rolled my eyes a little bit at certain points, but I tried not to do that too much because I'm remember because I look at some old films that I absolutely love, and you're like, I don't know if that, does that really work? But it's a movie of its time. Because like I'll tell you one other thing about the thing that bothered me, and it was the same way in the comedy that I saw, Chalti Ka. They do these amazing outdoor scenes, like cinematography, fantastic. And I don't think this was a very big budget film. But then they do these sets that look like it's like on a stage, like a play set. Even like when they're walking on the steps and stuff, it sounds so hollow, like it's not a real place, right? So then they have that scene, and then they do these amazing outdoor scenes that are shot on location. That's very jarring when you watch a film like this. Now that's not a big critique; it's a small critique, but it is. That's what I mean about a film of its time, and it gets very jarring. But I would tell you, the outdoor stuff they shot was absolutely beautiful. I mean, just really, really well done. The crowd shots when they're singing and people are gathering around and they're watching from everywhere. So yeah, so I thought the story was a four. The performances I thought were excellent. I mean, the two leads have to carry this film, right? And their friendship develops. And again, it's a bromance. At one point he says, "You have to the blind guy, you have beautiful eyes." Says it all the time. But it wasn't anything, again, nothing sexual. It was just they love each other and they're there for each other. And when they weren't, it was devastating to both of them. So I don't know what kind of careers these two actors had. Now I will say one thing about Mohan, who played the blind guy. He did something that I find annoying whenever people play blind. Because if you've ever talked to a blind person and they're not wearing dark glasses, they do they do make eye contact. Now I know that sounds kind of, antithetical to their being blind, but they do. What he did to show his blindness the whole time was he looked up to show he was blind, right? That's what he was doing the whole time. But that's not what, like, look at Al Pacino in Scent of a Woman. He looks at you, but he's kind of not looking right at you, almost like he's a little out of focus. But he's not doing this. He's not doing this. He's looking, he's like, here's you, and I'm just off a little bit. That's all. That was, but having said that, I thought overall, I thought the performances were pretty solid. I give the performances a three. Okay, I don't think it was, again, not Oscar worthy, but it was good. Now the music, I loved the music. The harmonica stuff, the guy's voice was just, I'm telling you, it was like, it sounds corny, but it sounds like, an angel singing. That's how amazing the voice was. So I'm going to give the music a five. And I don't do that very often because sometimes the music doesn't work for me. But in this film, it absolutely works for me because it works. It's such an intricate part of the story. Um, so so overall, I'm going to give the story. You know what? I'm going to give it a four because one, I enjoyed it, but two, I appreciate a film of its time. And I looked at the reviews after I watched the film, and people absolutely adore this film, especially the music. And I can understand why. I had my issues with it, but overall, I really enjoyed it. So I give it a four. I thought it was I appreciate I love classic films in general, and it's interesting to watch the evolution of Indian films because I've seen films from the 50s, 60s. I think the weakest area is the 90s for sure. But it is interesting to watch where they started from. Because if you look at the films in the 50s and 60s, they look like Hollywood of the 30s and 40s. So a little bit behind, right? Technology, all that stuff. but I like that. I like that. I find that as part of a film buff, I like seeing that, and I appreciate people wanting me to watch classic films because I'm a classic film guy. So thank you for that one. I really enjoyed that. Okay, so that leads me right into John's pick, my recommendation. For a film you should watch. And this is, it's not my favorite film of all time, but I think it's the greatest American film ever made. And it's 1941 Citizen Kane with Orson Welles, starring, directing, but also cinematography by Greg Toland. And this is a film that I am amazed at for a couple of different reasons. One, Orson Welles was 25 years old and he goes from 25 to I think 70 something in this film, and completely believable. But also the things he does with the camera. Now this was his first film, but what he's able to, him and Greg Toland, and you have to lump them together. What they were able to do with film technically is why this film is so amazing. The stuff they do, very small budget, um, but amazing things with sets and shadows, minimal makeup. It's just an amazing film. And if you've never seen it, see it. And you might sit there and go, well, the story's kind of stupid. I don't really love it. Pay attention. If that's how you feel, pay attention to the filmmaking process of what they did, because it's pretty amazing. I'll give you one little thing, too. There's an opening scene that's done in a projection room with a bunch of cigarette smoke, and they're talking about Kane. What was the man after he dies? What was the man like? Well, that scene was actually filmed. Orson Welles did it as a rehearsal, but he actually filmed it unbeknownst to the studio to get the ball rolling, and that's the actual scene that they use. So he was very, very clever, just brilliant, brilliant. And frankly, as he made a lot of great films, but he didn't make anything as good as this. And he even said, "Sometimes I wish I never made Kane." Because the bar was set so high. So that's my recommendation. Check that out. And if you do see it, let me know what you think about it, okay? All right, that's it. If you're new to the channel, please subscribe, hit the notification button, hit the like button. As always, please share. We want to build this maniac community. And with you, we can do it, okay? All right, everyone. Thanks for watching John Talks in the Indian Cinema. We'll see you next time with a 10ish minute review or a trailer reaction. Thanks for watching, everybody.